Welcome, everybody, to a conversation about sports, race, and business in America. I'm your host, Farah Pierre, here with my co host, Eliel Joseph, CEO of Chorus Technologies. And today we'll be talking about Argentina and the World Cup and the whole debacle around that situation. Um, Eliel, can you help us introduce us to your guest?
Yes, joining us today is my good friend, my pickup soccer buddy, uh, Dr. Greg Piero. He's an author and also professor of African American Studies at the University of Connecticut. Dr. Piero, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Also, yeah, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. Yeah, obviously, as you know, I'm a big Argentina fan. My fandom we grew up in as you know in Haiti. There's two different scenarios, right? You can either be a Brazilian fan or an Argentinian fan. I was a contrarian. I was an Argentina fan, right? If I remember back in the '90s when Maradona lost to Germany, I was 10 years old, and when Maradona cried until he lost the World Cup. But as you know, in the States, if you black and you cheer for Argentina, and they're like, "What's wrong with you?" Right? So I get flack from my brothers, like, "What's going on?" And even for my co-host, you can't be black and root for Argentina.
Mhm.
Uh, with that said, man, let's get right to it. In your view, is Argentina racist?
Oh, so I think it's a complicated question that should get a complex answer. I think do are we talking about the team, the members on the team? Are we talking about the fans and which fans? Are we talking about the country at large? And I think you can have different answers to all those questions. I think they put racism in the forefront of the soccer conversation, whether they meant to or not. I would say they started it 4 years ago, and with a vengeance. And I would say they did not exactly fix it this time around. I also would say it's interesting to see that this time around, other people like this parliamentary from Paraguay, for example, also got into it, right? So there's also sort of a freedom with racist comments that I think would not have happened maybe 10, 20 years ago. So we see part of this as well. Um, but to go back to your country, to your question, sorry, I would say it depends. I would say yeah, there's racism in Argentina. There are racists among Argentines. There's a racist history of Argentina. But yeah, again, I think it's should make it interesting to look into, I guess.
Yeah. So one question we seeing, obviously we see the team play, or the one question we keep getting is why there's no black player in Argentina team, right? So is there no black player or is there no black in Argentina currently?
So that's another complex question, right? I think these are a complex answer. I think, as is true of many countries in the world, it depends what you mean by black. And what you mean by black also depends on where you come from and the history of that word or and the history of what people understand by that word.
Right.
I would say by U.S. American standards, there are black people in Argentina. Whether they call themselves black is a different story. And whether other Argentinians consider them to be black is yet another story. And I think that's part of what makes it complex and really interesting to me is that I think people in Argentina are fairly aware of the racial history of their country,
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.
but I don't think they understand the same thing we do, say in the U.S. or even in France, where I grew up, or in the French Caribbean, where my family comes from, when we say black. And I think that's where it's really important. It's really interesting. It's really complex, and I think a lot of the conversations we may have heard on TV or among pundits, they just don't have time or maybe the interest to actually get into it with the seriousness that it deserves.
Yeah, so is it because the population of Afro Argentine is so low, there's no pool of player to pull from? Or another thing that I read, and then people keep mentioning back in the days, they did send a lot of Afro Argentina to die to a war, right?
Uh-huh.
Called the Triple Alliance War. I mean, did you know a little bit about that? Can you, was that part of the history?
Well, actually, before you go into that, I think we have to determine what we do mean by black, because, like you said, it is so many different things. Because mixed race can be considered black, also mulatto can be considered black. So I think for purposes of this conversation, I think if we talk about just African descent, people of African descent as black, then we can have a better conversation. So I
No.
think,
Sorry.
yeah,
Hey, good point. That's I didn't want to interrupt, but yeah, you're right. That's what it comes down to, right? Like what do what does it take for others to see us as black?
right.
You know, I'm sure, I call myself black. I'm sure plenty of people would say, well, you're not black. What does it take to be black? Is it a certain percentage, or how do you calculate it? And I think one of the difficulties in answering that question is that it's both a cultural question, a historical question, and I want to say pseudo-scientific question, because for a long time in the 18th century, when people started, and it's always related to the slave trade, so that makes it even more complicated.
Mm,
But when white people, for the most part, started trying to, make science out of race, they came up with all sorts of theories that make absolutely no sense, but that
mm,
people believed for a long time, and that people still believe at some level, because we still talk about race according to, for the most part, according to criteria and understandings that are not scientific, but that we feel make sense,
mhm.
right? And so there's this sense that, like, well, black people, well, you can tell if somebody's black. Well, you can if all you mean is about skin color, even though that, of course, is in it like its own problem, because by that token, then there are people from a lot of regions that could be black, right?
Yeah,
From
and I do think a lot of, nationalities have a percentage of what is considered Black within their DNA, so and if we think in that context, it would be like everybody's Black, technically.
Well, and also, I mean, as you mentioned, like, do we just mean skin color, or do we mean African descent? Because those
Right,
are two different things. Uh,
right,
and not just, to say, well, there's not Africa, whatever. But like, if we do mean people who have ancestors who came from sub-Saharan Africa, well, they can still look a variety of ways, right? So if we mean like a phenotype by black, then that's one thing. But if we mean of African descent, and let's just make that divide, I guess. Well, yeah, obviously, Argentina being one of those, one, like all the countries in the Americas, having been, taken over by Europeans in the 16th or 15th century, having seen much, if not all, of its native population slaughtered along the years, and people from Africa being deported from Africa to work as enslaved people in the Americas. Well, that was true of Argentina as well. Obviously, I have numbers that are pretty interesting related to this. And they're not unproblematic, but let's say, I was reading in this historical source that between 1778 and 1810, 30% of Argentina's population was considered black,
Oh, wow.
right?
So they had a the decent size of the population were Black. Uh,
Exactly.
and,
And that population dwindles like within a century. It almost goes down to zero.
oh, wow.
How does that make sense, right?
Right,
And as you mentioned, wars are part of it. We know that a lot of people of African descent were soldiers and died in the many wars that Argentina fought.
right,
We know that there were diseases. There were, a huge yellow fever outbreak in the late 19th century in Buenos Aires that killed a lot of people, including a lot of the black population.
right,
Um, Ironically, the end of the slave trade meant that no more black people came to Argentina at the end of the 19th century, when a lot of Europeans did come, and so on and so forth. So a lot of those stories, are usually used to explain, well, this is why there are no more black people in Argentina, and then that there was a policy dedicated to killing of black people. And that's not actually quite the case, right? When you look at it, what's really interesting is that even the numbers that I gave are based on official documents, right? Official census from different years. But what do those documents say? They just give a color next to people's names, right? So Greg, Pierre, Black, whatever, or whatever categories they had back then. And what historians have found out is that as you go, you can see that some of those same people from one census to the next changed categories. So they're the same people, but all of a sudden they went from being called black to say mulatto or pardo or like different, different categories that some of which existed only in Argentina. And along the years, because they're called something else, they become something else. And that sounds a little crazy, but like that goes back to what we were saying earlier. Like being black is not necessarily something you would see. And I mean quite literally, like it's not as simple as saying, well, your skin is black. Even black skin, whatever we think that means, registers differently depending on what you call it, right? Uh, so that's also very, very much what happened in Argentina. So there's many historians at this point consider that the whitening of Argentina was mostly cultural. Like it was very dedicated,
Was
right?
it an official government policy, you think? That or was it social pressure? I mean, what get to go to that level?
I think all of those things participated in it. What's his name? This guy called Sarmiento became president in the mid to late 19th century. Who was an Argentinian intellectual, wrote a lot, and he wrote a lot about race. He traveled all over the world. He went to Africa, he went to Europe, and one of the things that's really interesting is apparently he went to Algeria when in the first 2 decades when France was colonizing Algeria. Absolutely horrendous colonization. They slaughtered all sorts of people. It was very, very violent. His reflections was, oh, this is how I mean, I'm summarizing obviously, but like this is how you become a modern country. You need to get rid of the savages. He had in mind the Native Americans in Argentina, right? Like he wasn't even thinking of black people. Because as far as he was concerned, when he was thinking of black people, and he was a racist, like most, if not all white people at this time, but part of he saw what black people and Indians as inferior, but he thought that the black population of Argentina would eventually whiten out. And
Black
so,
as in African, correct?
yes, it's people of African descent who already were in Argentina, right? And so the way he was concerned, and it's interesting because I think there's a quote, and I'm paraphrasing, but a quote of his discussing the wars that Argentina fought. And he said, well, one of the good things is that many, he would say black, but like many black men died. Because his idea was, yeah, a modern country, civilized country should be white, right? So if you don't have black men, then then blackness will sort of whiten out, right, with different generations. And the way he saw it is that, yeah, it was fine if black people married with white people and so on and so forth, and in 5 generations you couldn't tell one from the other. That was fine, right? That
And
to him,
I think it has to
out of
do with a lot more than that, because if you include the fact that um Black uh history is not really taught, and if you also include that um from like a list options for like Black weren't really put on lists of like census or like um applications or anything like that. So it kind of feels like it's a concerted effort to erase Black people, because if the option isn't even there, then how do you know they even existed, kind of thing.
yeah. And I think it's important I think you're right that it's concerted. I just don't want to make it sound like it's a conspiracy that people get together in a room somewhere. It was like because you have to think, however that might feel for us, that like people of mixed people at the time were also thinking, well, I can be black and suffer for it, or I can tell people I'm white, and if they're fine with it, then all of a sudden I get social recognition,
Right.
right?
But I mean, I
It's
don't know if it's
uh,
conspiracy, if it's part of the system. Like if it's
but that's
within the system itself,
yeah.
it's conspiracy.
Oh, I think that no. I mean, that's me saying it. Like, I think you're totally right. That was like it was something they thought about, and they thought about it in exactly those terms. I
Right.
just feel like it's not, you know what I mean. Like these days, I just want to make like it's exactly what you're saying. It's stuff like this. Like, if you don't name people black anymore, then what are they?
Right.
Something.
Right.
right? It's that simple.
Yeah, it's like out of sight, out of mind kind of thing.
Yeah.
do
And
you do you believe there was a migration around that time then to push the blacks or toward Brazil? Because obviously the Brazil Afro population grew during the same time as well. Was
mhm.
there migration event happen?
So I don't know the details of this. My guess is that probably there wasn't. Exactly for the reasons we just started mentioning. I mean, slavery is not abolished in Brazil until 1888. I don't see people of African descent wanting to go in a country where they could be enslaved for no reason.
Right.
But I'm sure there's always movement, right? But the thing I wanted to say that to go back to what Farah was saying is that in the U.S. we're used to the one drop rule when like just one drop of black blood,
Makes
like
you black.
really unscientific notion, but like yeah,
Right.
makes you black.
Right.
In China, it's exactly the opposite, essentially. The idea is that one drop of black blood makes you white or potentially white or somewhere on the way towards whiteness.
Right.
And that's how that becomes like cultural capital. And so you have on one hand people like Sarmiento and others who want Argentina to be a white country, so they benefit from that idea. And on the other hand, people who might have you might be of African descent, but who see that they can benefit socially out of calling themselves something else. So all of those things get together and participate in that whitening of Argentina.
Yeah, so if we compare the same with any other Latin American country, do we see the same event happen, or just is it just mostly that happened in Argentina?
So I think I think you see some of it, probably not in exactly the same terms, but and I don't know enough to speak to it too specifically, but I get the sense that there are similar trends in Uruguay, for example. Um, Brazil is a whole different story, if only for what I just mentioned, right? I mean, Argentina abolishes slavery fairly early compared to Brazil, that's for sure. But then Brazil abolishes it fairly late compared to everybody.
Got it.
And that changes everything, right? I mean, enslaved people come to Brazil for a long time. Argentina is forced to abolish the slave trade by Britain in the 18 in before 1810, I forget what year. Then, starting in the 1810s, they pass a series of laws that lead to eventually the abolition of slavery. So they do this, at 30 to 40 years earlier than Brazil. So Brazil, again, maybe not so ironically, but Brazil is blacker than Argentina, among other reasons, because it had slavery for a longer time.
Right.
But then there was slavery in all of like Spanish colonies in South America at some point, right? From Mexico all the way down to Chile.
Mhm.
Uh, it played out differently in every country. I mean, that's the best way I can put it. And I really don't know enough about many of the other South American countries to speak to them. I know the Caribbean a little better, and you know that it's
Yeah.
that's very true about the Caribbean. However small those countries may be, from one island to the next, the setup is entirely different. Even though their history might seem so similar, right?
Right.
Uh, well, I think in many ways, yeah, the timeline for Argentina is unique to Argentina.
Got it. So let's bring it back to the World Cup event. Can a black African American root for Argentina? Would you resent somebody that root for Argentina or for that team? Or can we separate the player, the team, the culture? Can we separate the three?
I think so. I it's funny you mentioned because I read just earlier today. I read a testimony from a black man. I think he was American. I'm not sure where he was from, but he has he has very close relationship to Argentina. Has lived there. I think his partner may be from Argentina, and he was, describing exactly this. He said, "I'm tired of people telling me like I shouldn't support Argentina." And, I think he's right, because, in spite of all of this, right, I think two things can be true at the same time. Was there like intense racist commentary around Argentina? Did they sing racist chants against the French team this year and 4 years ago?
I'm sorry,
Undeniable.
can I comment a little bit?
Of course.
Because I understand what you're saying. I do. But it honestly, if we're going back to the World Cup, I don't know if you saw the actions of the Argentinian players, and it has a lot to do with the fact that their background is racist. So I mean, I say that to generalize, but a lot of the players were just really um attacking the Spanish players and just going at them like physically. A lot of the players from Argentina were really, I don't know, were coming really hard at the Spanish players.
Mhm.
So I take that as because of their background of racism, that's why they react in such a way towards other people. I
So
mean, that's just my opinion.
yeah, it's funny because Ilya mentioned earlier, watching Argentina in the '90s. And of course, I was watching Argentina also in the '90s from, the other side of the ocean, with a slightly different outlook, right? And when you see Argentina playing Germany, which happened at like 2 or 3 finals in a row, 2,
Right.
um, watching this as a Frenchman, and I loathed Germany in the '80s and '90s. I just could not, and for all sorts of reasons, most
Yes.
of them not very
Of
good.
course, it's in the history, right?
Right.
Also, the history of the sport, right? Interestingly,
Right,
and
right.
things
That
happen.
also, yes.
Yeah, and so it's funny because back then, in many ways, the way I felt about the way Germany was playing was the way people feel about the way Argentina is playing now.
Mm.
Germany in the '80s, they weren't just brutes, but they were brutes. Uh, the reason for that strong, dislike for the German team, and I'm really just mean the soccer team, in France in the '90s was what they done against France in '82, right?
Right.
Completely, I mean, insane violence, right? I mean, the French player just got assaulted by the goalie in the middle of the game, and he had to be
Wow.
taken out. He was in a coma. I'm not making this up, right? Like he broke his neck, broke a bunch of his
Oh
teeth.
my god.
There was no foul, nothing, no foul given. Absolute travesty, right?
Right.
Um, and so yeah, to me that was, and it's kind of silly in a way, right? I mean, the people by the time I saw them play, like half of that team was different. But they had a way of playing that was very physical, and that was always verging on the foul, and they wouldn't necessarily get fouls for it, right? And I thought it was, to me, that was just unconscionable. And I think a lot of what we see with Argentina, to me, like reminds me of that time. I was like, how can they get away with this all the time? And there's no answer. But then it builds up, right? Like you see it, and they get away with it, and they get away with it, and then Argentina are just cocky, right? I mean, they can't just win, right? They have to rub it in your face. It's just the behavior that's just unbearable to watch, right? I mean, unless you like them, I guess maybe, but even then, I'm not even sure.
To me,
Okay, so you
and
don't
good.
then you don't say that, oh, it's because of their racist history that they act like that.
I don't think so.
No. Okay.
I think quite a few. I think some of them have been very overtly racist. Some of the players.
Yes.
I think again, we can say a lot about, um, again the way they behave, and I just don't want to. Like, I don't think it's just bad apples or whatever. Yeah,
Mhm.
there's something systemic about this. Very much in just this culture of like insulting songs and behavior.
What to bring up
Uh,
is the fans keep saying, which is I think FIFA should investigate, right? Because I know they did for some European team, I believe. FIFA came down hard on the team, so I believe they should do the same thing if the song is racist.
uh-huh.
From what I understand, it is.
Yeah, I mean, the one from 4 years ago was odious. I mean, and again, I get it, like, all those songs, whatever. We may not hear half the songs that fans are singing, and there may well be worse songs out there, I don't know.
Mhm.
But it wasn't just the fans, right? Like, I mean, the players were from singing this on that bus.
Right.
I mean, again, like, is it worse? It doesn't matter, right? Like, either you do something because FIFA said they would do something in
Yeah.
those cases, or you don't. But then you can't either, like when you're Argentinian or a player or a fan, you can't just say, well, everybody's racist. Like, yeah, maybe, but not everybody's getting filmed singing racist songs.
Right.
Right? I don't know, just keep it to your friends. I mean, again, like I don't have any illusions about other countries being less racist than Argentina.
Right.
Like, to me, that's what's important too, right? I mean, some of the stuff the Argentinians were saying about French players, French politicians say about French players, right? So it's not like,
It's
it's just Argentina.
No,
But,
we're not in Argentina.
Sorry?
So we're not picking on just Argentina, right? So I want that to be portrayed as that.
Right. Yeah, I don't think it's just them. I don't think they also can play innocent, right? There has to be somewhere where you can be accountable for what you actually did, and then also admit that, like, well, yeah, that's not all we are, which I'm ready to believe, obviously, whether as a country or as people or even as a team. There's much more to them than this. Like, you don't just, you can't make it that far so regularly just because you're a bunch of brutes.
Correct.
But I don't know, are they held accountable?
I don't get
Not
that.
very many yellow or red cards were given out during that game.
Nah, I agree.
Well, that's
Has-
another topic for conversation because a lot of people view they Argentina will get very favoritism calls from
Right.
Yeah.
And that also will put in their minds that, well, if nothing is said to me, then I can still do
Uh-huh.
this kind of thing. And it's kind of like the sense of entitlement, really, where it's like they're not gonna say anything, so I can do whatever I want.
Yeah. And I think, at that level, I'd be curious to see, and I feel like there may have been studies of this already. I don't know how serious they've been or if it's just people, speaking. But I'd be curious to see, ingrained bias from refs and generally speaking, and how different it might be, if you put up black and white players. Because there, I really believe that there's something at that level.
Right.
And you know how it is. People, so you play the race card, da, da, da. It's like, no, I think, again, it's a hunch, and again, I'd love to be proven wrong, but the sense I get is that some people get away with murder and others not. And VAR hasn't changed anything as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I mean, you can kind of tell from the way they were behaving that it's like they're used to doing this and getting away with it. Because I mean, why else would you know? What I mean, why else would they even think they could do that?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and especially because we know there are different trends in refereeing. Whether you're playing in different national championships or
Right.
international championships, and we know that refereeing is not the same in England as it might be in, say, Brazil or in Hungary or whatever. And that's
Right,
fine,
but that's why you have rules.
right? I mean, it's true, and it's like, and you shouldn't expect that the way you used to playing again in your national championship is going to be the same on the world stage.
Right.
Yeah, but you do expect if there are rules, you're gonna follow them.
Well, I think I think part of like in sport is also not finding like ways to get around rules to the extent of doing things that just far from being illegal while staying legal. But yeah,
Yeah, to me, if someone decide, okay, because of the history of Argentina, I'm black and I don't want to support them, you should be able to, you're supposed to be able to feel that way. If
yeah.
somebody else at the same token say, you know what, I love the team, the winners, I love the players, I can support them. I believe we shouldn't judge them against. We shouldn't judge them either.
Well, again, as a French.
No, I don't agree. You're getting judged. You're getting judged. That's why we're on a world stage. I mean, otherwise it's like, okay, do whatever you want. Anybody, you know what I mean? Because part
Oh,
of it is shaming them into doing the right thing. Because if the referee is not going to hold them accountable, it's up to the fans. It's up to, FIFA. Because there
well,
has to be a line. There has to be a line where it's like, okay, you don't cross this line, you can't go further than this and you're done. Like, because otherwise it's like, what's to stop them? You
no,
know?
I think that's. I mean, I don't know that there's been one World Cup when people did not complain about decisions, right? I mean,
Right.
I feel
And
like
I think that's all you can do, especially when the referee is not stepping up and is not like holding them accountable.
yeah. No, I think
You guys kind of have to be like that line at the end of the day.
yeah, but it's still like the ref is still the only person who can.
Well, yeah, but
Do we know the actual? I mean, let's go to today, Argentina, the makeup of the country. Do we know the makeup of the census? Is it 5% Afro-Argentine? Is it 2%, or is it non-existent?
I'm pretty sure it's under 1%.
Oh wow!
But, as we said, one thing that's happened in the past few decades, that I've read about is that people are digging up and like trying to find out, you know, who their ancestry is.
And
Um,
also, like you said earlier, a lot of people are being mislabeled.
yeah, and they've
So
been.
it could be higher, if anything, but
Mhm.
I think because of the just the idea that this is we're not even gonna put that list out there. So you really don't know.
So I think so what I've read about is that there's a movement to try and like recuperate that history. And so in detail, I don't know how I'm assuming part of it is going through census document and other type of official documents and see, by doing genealogy, whether your ancestors were, written down as something else or where they came from, etc. But then there are also people digging up, cultural modes of expression that we know to be derived from African cultures, whether it's in music or dance, and what I mean, tango, candombe. I mean, again, things that seem so attached and so Argentinian, and of course they are, right? But
Right.
they're also very much rooted in African cultures. That's again true of all the Americas. But Argentina is in this weird position where they've very actively erased all of that Black history, but
Right.
people have been recovering it, right? So I don't know what that means, or I don't know in detail. I know there are like cultural organizations in Buenos Aires, for example, that which was a hub for the Black population, that has been working on recovering those roots. And I'm assuming that people then have started maybe more claiming themselves as Afro-Argentinians. Um, I'm also assuming that I don't know numbers here, and I've read about this, but I don't know exactly how many people this represents. But
But do you agree that even if there are people that are doing that research, ultimately it has to be like the government that has to be the one to ultimately like acknowledge these people in their existence?
I don't necessarily think so, because not every country, especially now, like I don't even know that there are official documents. Um, I really don't know. So it may be that in official documents in Argentina, you have to write something, about your race like they do in the US. But like in France, for example, it's against the law, right? So um again, I don't know how they do it there. So I think this
No, but
movement
I mean like
is
what I meant was in terms of making sure education is there, the programs are there, and making sure that the people are teaching that history and that is correct.
Yeah. Well, I think as we know here and in many places, I think often it takes people doing it themselves for governments to agree to do it. So I think this movement is really important because if people get involved and get concerned, like personally as a group, and they realize, well, this is my history, and it's not just my history; it's got to be the history of hundreds, thousands of other people here. Well, then at some point, the government may have or feel forced to do something about it. I think it would be nice if they felt concerned. I only have the sense that this government in Argentina right now is the one that will get concerned,
Right.
and I think that's a long history to sort of reverse, right? Especially at that level of the state. But I do think that more people doing it, through culture, through music, which is obviously very important there. I think that might ultimately make, at least begin change, maybe maybe faster than starting with politics. But I don't know.
Yeah, sure. There be, I mean, the reason we love sports. I mean, sports is sport help bridge the gap, right? Get the bridge the differences. Should there be a bigger pushback from the sports community to Argentina to acknowledge and try to fix this?
You mean this history?
Yeah.
I mean, I think I'm not sure how that would work.
Yeah. So, for example, the journalists, right? So, you get they can ask questions. Hey, why there's no black player in Argentina on the team? Can you explain yourself, or is there any? You know what I mean? So there's
Uh,
there's gotta be a way to push back so they can show the true colors.
I think people have been asking those questions. I also feel like I don't know when you see how, like specifically how, say, Argentinian politicians, for example, speak about this, and they either don't know or they pretend they don't know, right? And these are like people representing their country as officials, right?
Right.
I don't know how fair it's not unfair, but I don't know how much we can expect from soccer players to know about the history of their country. And I don't mean that they shouldn't, but
Right.
I don't necessarily there are many scholars I don't trust to know the history of their country, not what they study, right? Like I'm not being a jerk. It's just that, well, if it's not really what you studied, how much do you know really about the history of any given country? And here we're really getting to something that's, again, I hope we've seen like the great lines of it only account for so much of what we're talking about. Like it's really subtle, and even we can talk in fairly general terms, but like to really get into it, well, you may have to study it, and we all know that soccer players don't have time to study history,
Right.
right? So I feel like I think it's interesting to ask them about race in soccer, like now. Um, Argentinian history, I feel like that might be. I don't know if that's fair. Like, that's
I
respect.
agree. I mean, my one thing is that you get asked about why there's no black player on the team. I mean, that's a legit question to ask.
It is. I think a lot of them will say because there are no black people in Argentina. Which can't possibly be true anyway. But it just, yeah. But yeah, no, I agree. But I feel like I get a sense that people this time around did ask every once in a while.
Yeah.
I feel like I did see videos about this, and I mean, the format is also right, like those press conferences. It's like you get questions about soccer that they barely answer anyway because they can't say, the time
Yeah.
they can really say what they mean. But yeah, no, I feel like if anything, I was sort of surprised how often it came out. But then again, it was also a reaction to how racist a lot of statements were. So it's all of a piece. I mean, I don't know if you did follow the thing with that Paraguayan senator, like talking about.
Yes.
I mean, it's just, I can't even imagine being the person that's known for this, right? The world around. Can you imagine? I mean, it's just you're that senator who said the most disgusting racist.
Literally, that is it's crazy. But how you're a politician, are you allowed to say that? And then not only she doubled down on it too, which is make even crazier.
Mhm. Yeah, she every time she was asked about it, she added something to it. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think to me, I mean, it's not a good thing, but it's interesting to find that out because I don't know how often, for example, people outside of France hear what extreme right wing French politicians say about French soccer, and their discourse is not that different from hers. It's just that outside of France, I don't know that many people hear it because why would you?
Right.
Uh, but so it's interesting every once in a while to me to get a glimpse of what is it? What is that conversation in those countries that I don't necessarily hear about? You know,
Right.
and one thing I get a sense of is that they're not fundamentally different from one place to the next. Sadly, I mean, not too general, not to say it's the same everywhere, but it's like no, there are insane levels of racism,
Right.
and very casual too, right? And so Argentina, I think I saw a lot of those players saying like, "Oh, but no, but you don't get it. Like we call everybody this word, negro or whatever.
Right.
It's not an insult." I'm like, "No, I get it, but it's not like also." You get it, right? I mean, you can't like you play in England all the time. You play in all those places. You can't just play innocent and act as if you don't know what people are telling you about.
Right.
People understand nuance even when it's not their language or their culture. They get that. They also get when what you're going for is not nuance. Like people aren't stupid,
Oh
and
yeah.
so anyway, so yeah.
Yeah, I mean that was a great conversation. For if for anyone that's probably listening to this for the first time, is there any books or documentary you will refer them to watch or read on this topic? Or
I didn't think about that actually. On Argentina, well, as I said, well, I've found a lot of really interesting articles and books about the history of race in Argentina. I can give them to you to list them later if you want.
yeah.
Because I can, yeah, I didn't think about writing them Yeah. But yeah, there's a lot about this. And again, I think it's interesting also how I mean, in relation to what we were just saying, how those histories, like we again, whether we know them or not is a different story, right? We can only read about so much stuff, I guess. But one thing I keep finding out is just how related those histories are, even when they are that different, right? Again, Argentina in many ways has its own history. It's different from everybody else's, but it is in relation to Uruguay, to Brazil, Paraguay, to Europe, to England, and
The
all
US.
yeah, all those topics we're talking about also developed in conversation with all those countries. So,
Mhm.
really, I think finding out about like race relations in Argentina tells us a lot about the
Mm,
U.S.,
right.
France, about England. So yeah,
Awesome. Wait, what a great conversation. What a treat. We learned a lot. We learned a lot today. So Dr. Piero, we truly appreciate your time joining us in this topic.
yeah.
Uh,
Thanks for having me. This was fun.
we enjoy it. I enjoy it. Fair. You went awesome.
Yeah, will you root for Argentina now?
I
Sorry?
don't know.
I'm sorry, what was the question? I didn't hear.
You root for Argentina now.
I don't think for her. I mean, if there's no black player in the team, she's
It's
not
not.
going to
I get it. I mean,
them.
you have to make choices.
If the team is good, I like the team. I root for whoever.
It's funny because there was like so as teams dwindle, you always have to like, okay, well, I'll root for this one this time.
Yeah.
Right.
At least that's
Well,
like,
you make that compromise if you don't believe, if there are no black players, I'm not watching. Yeah. So then it has to be, oh, it's a good team. It's like, yeah, whatever.
yeah, it's a yeah. For another day, but like the evolution of
Right.
the years has been interesting for that too, right? 'Cause
Also, what a great conversation. Again, Dr. Pierre, thank you very much for joining us. Invite you again for other episode. And
ready.
Yes, you have to come back for our episode about Haiti.
Oh, definitely. Yes. Anytime.
awesome. Yeah, we'll keep in touch. We'll I think I'm playing soccer tonight. Probably I won't see you tonight, but next time. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye. Next time.
All right.